James has a quote he's going to read about the perils of indifference, because I feel like that might be part of the problem. So he's going to kick us off with this quote. And then I wonder if we could talk a little bit about how you got to this place, how you decided to speak up and use your voice, and then maybe how other people could follow suit. That would be so great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
you for having me as well.
And Carl's an amazing contributor, and a couple of series back dropped bomb after bomb after bomb, and so really excited about having Carl back. I could listen to you for a long time, so it's really exciting to see you and hear from you again, friend. This is from what's called The Perils of Indifference speech by Elie Wiesel, who is a Jew who wrote the book Night, which lots of people in Canada have to read as part of their kind of high school course. A very, very difficult but a very important book to read. And so when he talks about indifference, he says this: in a way, to be indifferent to suffering is what makes the human being inhuman. Indifference, after all, is more dangerous than anger or hatred. Anger can at times be creative. One writes a great poem, a great symphony. One does something special for the sake of humanity because one is angry at the injustice that one witnesses. But indifference is never creative. Even a hatred at times may elicit a response. You fight it, you denounce it, you disarm it. Indifference elicits no response. Indifference is not a response. Indifference is not a beginning, it is an end. And therefore, indifference is always the friend of the enemy, for it benefits the aggressor, never his victim, whose pain is magnified when he or she feels forgotten. The prisoner, the political prisoner in his cell, the hungry children, the homeless refugee, not to respond to their plight, not to relieve their solitude by offering them a spark of hope, is to exile them from human memory, and in denying their humanity, we betray their own.
Yeah, that's an amazing quote.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty heavy. I mean, so what do you think?
I think that it's touching on a lot of very important points, though I would say that its presentation is a little bit more, I guess you could say, philosophical, but I think that it's absolutely theological as well, in that God has created us in his image, and part of that, the dynamic of what it means to be human, is the capacity to feel, to have emotions, to have reason, and all these other kinds of things. And it's a very real sense where almost even a danger where I would say that bitterness and hard-heartedness are on the other side of that coin in regards to the way in which it numbs our humanness. And so let me say it a different way. There's two sides of a coin. There is the numbness, the emotional numbness that can actually be caused by trauma, can be caused by abuse. And one of the horrific or devastating realities of abuse is the way in which it can numb our emotions, and in do that actually assault the image of God in people. The flip side of that is the willful rejection of the Imago Dei, which is indifference, which is apathy, which is a refusal to walk in the image bearingness that we have, which means to walk in and off our affections, our emotions, love, care, all these other attributes that God himself reflects and we reflect as image bearers. And so I think what that quote is really getting at is the fact that what you're dealing with when you're dealing with, again, especially within church culture, but it's also abroad. But when you're dealing with people who are apathetic to the realities of abuse, and indifferent to the realities of the assault of the Imago Dei in others, which is what abuse is, what you are dealing with is people who are willfully rejecting what makes them image bearers. What was rejecting what makes them human in many regards, and that. I would argue that abusers are doing that when they abuse, but the enablers of abuse who enable through indifference are doing the same thing. They're essentially saying, I'd rather ally with an abuser than walk in the realities of the Imago Dei, which would make me empathetic towards their victims. And what's even more devastating, and you were just alluding to this as well, is the fact that, and even ironic, is that some of the most apathetic people when it comes to abuse are people within spiritual leadership. The people who hold positions where they would say we are leaders or we are shepherds of other people's souls. And so my job, my vocation in life is to shepherd and nurture and disciple and help in the process of sanctification of other people, yet be apathetic. It's really hard to grasp. But I think that's kind of like what you're getting at when you're saying this, how frustrating it is that, you know, how can it be that those who are supposed to be models, under shepherds, models of Christ even, can be apathetic when Christ was literally the embodiment of empathy and the embodiment of love, in ways that were just, that even, you know, when we read the various stories of how Jesus cared for the marginalized, how he cared for the scandalous, within that social society, you know, it's appalling, just the love of Christ and the empathy of Christ. And yet his under shepherds, pastors, shepherds, those who are supposed to be a reflection of Christ to the body of Christ, can be so anemic when it comes to the very qualities that Christ himself reflected, as the Son of God incarnate. And so, yeah, so I think that that's really where the tension is that it's not just a matter of even men in general, which is a whole, so there's two levels here. One, men in general, you know, the apathy, the indifference, the disconnectedness that many of them have when it comes to advocating for women specifically, but also advocating for children and advocating for other men for that matter. But then there's the other layer that's even deeper of men in ministry, where it's like, if ever we were to find men who would be empathetic and passionate and zealous to advocate and protect the vulnerable, especially the sisters of God, especially the ones who Jesus said to protect children, that how they could be apathetic, and that how ministers could be apathetic is just a whole nother level where it's really hard to come to terms with, especially in light of who Christ is and what ministry is supposed to be. So that's,